Hello and welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Today, let's paint some mountains. But first, before I get into the demo, just a quick reminder that my book, Landscapes in Watercolour, Techniques and Tutorials for the Complete Beginner, is available to purchase from all good bookstores. It's full of lots of information for beginners and intermediates, and 10 step-by-step tutorials, 5 pure watercolour and 5 ink and watercolour. And if you're interested, then please follow the links below. So to start with, I'm going to paint a wet in wet sky, and I'm going to put in the mountains very faintly to start with, using the wet in wet technique as well. So the first thing I'm doing is wetting where I want my sky to be blue and grey with clean water. So I'm sort of having a practice run, if you see what I mean. And then I can see where the water is, and I can just add my cobalt blue using my brush. It's a medium value of cobalt blue working into the wet page, leaving gaps for my clouds. So bringing that cobalt blue across, sort of framing the sky, so to speak, framing the clouds. And I'm going to then mix a little bit of light red into my cobalt blue to give me a sort of a greyish violet colour, sort of a pinky tinge. That's a bit strong, so I'm just going to lighten it a little bit. And this colour, when it's mixed with the cobalt blue, will just give me some really pretty cloud shadows. So just working that in and around the wet blue in the sky, still maintaining some of the unpainted paper for the lightest parts of the clouds, but adding these cloud shadows in. My paper is Saunders Waterford cold press watercolour paper. It's a lightweight paper, only £90, and it's buckling a little bit, as you can see, but it should flatten out already. It's a good practice paper, 100% cotton, but cheaper than the £140 papers. And I'm using the tip of my brush, which is a Princeton Aqua Elite Mottler brush, to just rough in the shape of the mountains while everything's still wet, so it'll all softly diffuse. The paper is taped to my board with ordinary decorator's masking tape, and my board's at an angle of about 20 degrees. I'm now using Perylene Green and Payne's Grey and a bit of sap green as well, and I'll start building up the tree line across the edge of the lake. This is a drier mix of paint, so it will stay where I put it rather than diffusing and running down the page. I can also use a clean damp flat brush to soften the edge and just straighten things up to keep it nice and straight along the horizon. Then I continue with the same colours, sap green, Perylene green, some Payne's Grey and a bit of raw umber, and I'll build up the midground and the foreground. Notice how the paint is richer and darker in value across the front of the foreground and at the base of the trees and the mountains. And this should help to make some differentiation between the foreground, the midground and the distant mountains when I put them in a bit later. I'm using the tip of my size 5 palette knife to put in just a few hints of tree trunks and branches in that tree line. and then back with the fan brush to put a bit of extra texture in the foreground, just dragging out the colour that's already there. And I can use the fan brush and the shape that it gives me, the shape of brushstroke that it gives me, to just add a bit of extra suggested detail to the canopies in the midground. Then a little bit of delicate scraping through the damp paint in the foreground just to create a few grasses without overdoing it. And now I need to leave this painting to dry completely. And here's the dry painting, and the next thing I'm going to do is paint in the mountains. Now I've mixed up a sort of a darker grey, sort of with this slightly pinkish hue from the light red, and Payne's grey and a bit of cobalt blue. I'm using my 3/4 inch flat brush, and I'm working in my distant mountains, trying to get some differentiation between the peaks by varying up the values of my colour. I've got a puddle of it on the palette. Some is slightly lighter, some is slightly darker, and I'm dipping into different parts of it. And you can see that I'm differentiating between the peaks, and then I'm going to be softening back underneath using my size 2 quill brush and just dragging out the paint across underneath the marks that I've made already, if you see what I mean, softening back and just allowing the paint to fill the space softly below the line of mountain that I put in. And then I can put in, with a slightly paler value paint, some paler mountains going back into the distance. I don't know whether I explained that very well, but I hope you can see what I mean. So it's a combination of making sort of harder marks with the flat brush and then softening those marks back with a damp quill brush and varying the value. And now I'm going in and I'm emphasising the differentiation between the mountain peaks by scraping through that rich paint carefully with my palette knife, just to produce some sort of slopes or suggestions of slopes in the distance. Softening back along the headland with my clean damp flat brush. Just making a few final adjustments here and there. The painting really just needs to sort of speak to you at this point. If you think it needs to be a little bit darker at the base of the trees, then go for that. If you want to add a little bit more tone to some of the mountains, then do that. I think I need a bit more blue reflected in the lake. So I'm dragging that across using the tips of my flat brush, my cobalt blue, and horizontal brush strokes to keep the water nice and flat. I don't want it to be sort of too patchy, so I'm just trying to smooth it out a little bit, keeping those brush strokes, as I said, quite horizontal. And once I've got it a little bit smoother, then I can use the brush damp to lift out a little bit of the brighter paint so it's not too bright. And I'm quite happy with that. I'm just going to add a little bit of the same cobalt blue into where there's a bit of white paper left in the middle ground and around the foreground, just to suggest maybe some marshy land just on the lake shore. Again, keeping those brush strokes horizontal, and that should contrast nicely with the more random organic brush strokes that have created the foreground grasses. Then I'll just alternate between my rigger brush, my flat brush, with Payne's Grey and Perylene Green, just to sort of darken up here and there, leaving a bit of the lighter paint showing through so that it's suggesting that tree line a little bit more strongly, and then cleaning up and softening back with that damp flat brush along the base. And I think I'm just about done. I'm quite happy with this loose painting. It'd be easy to overwork it by trying to add a few more details, but I think it works quite nicely as it is. It's loose, it's fresh, the detail is suggested rather than overtly painted. And this is a great way to practice your loose watercolour landscape painting. Don't worry about making mistakes. Try not to get too bogged down with detail, and try and keep your brushwork expressive using the largest brushes that you can get away with for different parts of the painting. And don't worry about making mistakes or if things go wrong. It's only a piece of paper. Get out another piece and try again. Loose painting is something that you can develop the more you practice, and the more mistakes you make, the more you'll realise what it is that you need to do to loosen up. It comes with confidence as you build your skills. So practice and embrace the mistakes, because it's those that will help you to move forward. If you found that helpful, then please give the video a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, then I'd invite you to do so. It's free to do, and it really helps with our reach. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can follow the link below and sign up for our Patreon pages. The financial support that we get from our wonderful patrons over on Patreon is what enables us to run this free YouTube channel. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.